People will dream up what they want to dream up because they want something to be true or they don't want something to be true. Keep that quote by Walton in mind.
Wizard's first rule.
Yeah. This I'm going to bring in from some of Lloyd Pye's work, again, who this presentation is dedicated to. These are 12 ways that Lloyd Pye talked about that human beings aren't actual primates. That, you know, classical anthropologists say that we're primates and descended from primates, but really we don't exhibit the characteristics of primates. Human bones are much thinner and lighter than primate bones. This is a human finger bone and a primate finger bone, a human femur and a primate femur. The density is nowhere near each other. You know, if we're supposed to be, you know, advanced evolutionarily from the earlier prototype, it looks like we took a step back. We're much weaker than they were, okay? Our muscles are 5 to 10 times weaker. That's why don't get in a scuffle with an orangutan, because you will be torn apart, okay? Skin is not well adapted to direct sunlight, our skin, whereas they are naturally adapted to living on the earth outside. We're the only really animal that is not adapted to living on this planet, if you think about it. We're not naturally adapted to living on the earth. Why would we be the only animal that's not naturally adapted to be living on the planet in which we're supposed to put supposedly the epitome of evolution on? We have 10 times as much as adipose tissue, fatty tissue, drastically less body hair, and the patterns are reversed. Hair on the male front as opposed to, you know, the backs, whereas apes have hair on the back and a hairless front. Head hair and nails must be trimmed for us, not with hominids. Skulls and brains are completely different, okay? You know, these are hominid skulls, and there's a human skull, and no missing link has ever been found. Scientists are telling us, since the whole theory of Darwinian evolution has been concocted, that, oh, you know, we're going to find this missing link. We're going to find the evidence of transitional species. Darwin himself would have been opposed to his own theory today. This was picked up by social Darwinists, eugenicists, and social engineers to play into their advantage to control the slave species, okay? No transitional species have been found between the hominids and humans. It's not there. You know what? It's not going to be there. It's not going to be found. Want to know why? Because there is no connection. There is no connection, okay? You know, they also want to tell us this change happened evolutionarily almost overnight, and these old species went out and the new one, Homo sapiens sapiens, came in. There's a reason that we came in practically overnight, and I just talked about it in the past section, okay? Drastically different locomotion. Another thing Pye's work really got into was how drastically redesigned the human foot is in comparison to a hominid foot. A hominid foot has a straight-on pattern, okay? When you step down with the heel, the weight distribution is even, and it pushes off across the whole front of the foot, okay? With our foot, it goes around the arch, and weight has to be completely redistributed on the fly. It's a completely inferior design compared to the hominid foot, all right? So that's what he's talking about here when he says drastically different locomotion. We're capable of speech because our throat is completely redesigned from hominids. There are no signs of typical estrus cycles in human beings. That means going into cycles of heat, going in heat like primates do. We have 4,000 genetic disorders in the human genome, and our chromosomes are reduced from a primate's 48 to a human's 46, 23 from each parent. Going back to what I was talking about, you could look at bones that are found in all primate species, all hominid and primate species. There is exactly 0 bones, okay, from the hominid races in the human skeleton. 0. There are 0 transitional bones in the skeletons from hominids to human. There are 0 transitional species with a mixture of hominid and human bones. 0 in the fossil record. And no anthropologist or archaeologist will debate that because it doesn't exist. Okay? but we want to think we are just totally, somehow a descendant from the hominids. We're not a descendant from the hominids, we're hybridized from them with another species. Moving on. The human chromosome number 2 is one of the big pieces of the puzzle that people really need to look into, okay? I tell people, if you want to really understand the story of the ancient past, and you're from a left-brain scientific bent, start with human chromosome number 2. Because this is a fused chromosome, okay? Here it is right here, right there. This is human chromosome 1, this is human chromosome 3, okay? This is chimpanzee, gorilla, and orangutan, all right? You could see the difference in the hominid chromosome, number 2. But this one, it appears to be fused at the telomeres, which is the end of the chromosome, all right? The typical response in biology, in genetics, and anthropology is that this was a naturally occurring splicing or combination of that much genetic material. Well, and people think, oh, that's just a little bit of material. This would probably require, if that kind of splicing were to happen naturally, at least 10 million years, according to classical Darwinian theory of how fast evolution moves. And I'm just estimating that, okay? They want to tell us, modern geneticists and biologists want to tell us that happened in 40,000 years. In 40,000 years, that much genetic modification happened. And what I'm going to say is I think that's a deliberate modification that came through in the second modification that was done to us, the dumbing down modification that I talked about in the story, okay? Look into human chromosome number 2. It's enlightening, although it may be a horror story, it's very enlightening.